Hello everyone, Wise Gamer here, and today we're speaking with Jake Walters from Lonely Monster Games to discuss a new project called Gratis. Jake, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and your guys' team a little bit, and then we can kind of talk about indie gaming and how you kind of got started with everything.
Okay, sounds good. Hi, I'm Jake, or Jake Walters, and I am the producer, work with sound, work with composing the music, as well as some just general game design stuff. The other one-third of our team is Heather. She's actually my sister. She does the art, graphic design, as well as some design work. And our programmer is James St. Clair, and he does all the programming as well as design and planning.
Okay, well, we definitely have to meet them in the future as well. So I was going through some of your guys' story a little bit. So basically, growing up, Doctor Who fans kind of had a little bit of influence on the name of that. Do you want to talk about
Sure.
how you guys kind of formed together in 2013, last year, and how you got started with your first project?
Yeah, sure. So actually, my sister Heather and James, our programmer, actually work at a local college developing educational games and have for several years. And quite successful at it, actually. But of course, all the credit and all the reimbursement goes to the college and not them. And creatively, it can create some constraints when everything you build has to adhere to certain learning standards and educational standards. So they were looking for ways to be creative and create games without necessarily those constraints. Obviously, they're creating games having bigger ideas that they just can't fit into what they're making. And me on the other side, I've grown up playing video games, got an Atari, Atari XE, NES, Super NES, all the way through to most consoles as well as PC gaming. So I had grown up playing games and had an interest in design, and I was actually doing some game design study at the college where they both worked, and we obviously met, interacted, and talked about it for a while, sort of off and on. Just life kind of gets in the way at times. But finally last year around May, we decided we would go ahead and confirm our dedication to creating some games and form Lonely Monster Games. And it's actually taken, the term Lonely Monster is sort of taken from a Doctor Who episode from last season, season 7. And it's a line that the Doctor says, every lonely monster needs a companion. And we sort of thought we liked the way that rang, so we stuck with that.
That was the episode with the little girl that was upstairs, right? And she was drawing the pictures of everything. Was that it?
No, it was actually the one called Hide. It's the one with the haunted house and the tree monster.
I feel like such a failed Doctor Who fan now. So
that's all right.
Okay, well that's really cool then. So I know you want to talk about your new project Gratis and everything too. Do you want to talk about real quick Boy and Pup though, and how kind of that success has kind of driven you into the second project, or what you learned from there?
Yeah, Boy and Pup was our first game, and we actually started planning that during the formation of the company. Overall, I think we did pretty well with creating a company and then creating a game, and we did all that in about 4 months. And Boy and Pup started off as just one of those little ideas that sort of grew and evolved and changed. It started out as a game where you would be in a burning building, or you'd be in a building without electricity, and you would have to escape using a candle, and you'd have to get out before the candle burned down or blew out. And we riffed on the idea till it actually became more of a rescue mission rather than an escape. So yeah, it's a top-down sort of cover-based puzzle game where you have to go in as a little boy to this haunted house, avoid the ghosts, and get your puppy out. And we launched that at the end of November of last year, and we've had several hundred downloads, some good feedback, and we've actually entered it into a competition that it's still in as of the time of this recording, and it's doing pretty well. So yeah, we use that and to sort of use that energy to go on and make the next game.
Okay, so then kind of talking about that so what was some of the inspiration for Gratis?
There's lots of different places that the inspiration comes from. We're big lovers of FTL, Faster Than Light. Love that game and how infuriatingly amazing it is. So we obviously wanted to make our mark in creating a game in space, because it's a fun place to explore, if you'll pardon the pun. But we wanted to make a game in space, and we all fans of strategy games and also of tower defense games. We all play Field Runners, Field Runners 2, Sanctum, things like that. So we wanted to make a game that sort of worked in both of those spaces. So with Gratis, that's sort of where the idea came from.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. So one of the things I always like discussing with developers are some of the planned features that you have that's really going to make it that indie title that we always think of. You know, you talked about some of the restrictions you have at a school, and it's the same thing with like working for a bigger development company. You always have those restrictions where you can't really step outside the line at all. So what are some of the features that you're really excited about that are going to make this game unique, and then also it kind of expands on that whole stepping outside of the bounds a little bit?
Yeah, the idea for the game, we started off just wanting to do a tower defense game in space and sort of like have this planet where you would put out some defense satellites and it would play like a tower defense, but it would be a little less rectangular like most tower defense games are, where it's sort of like a 4x4 grid, and it would be something a little more organic feeling. But as development and feature creep take over, the game just sort of grew into a bit of a hybrid between a tower defense game. There's going to be strategy elements. There will be crafting elements, even some roguelike elements, some randomly generated sectors and encounters and things like that. So there's going to be lots of crossover. And when people ask me to, say what genre this game is, it's sort of hard to nail down. And that's not meant at all in a pretentious way. It's just there's a lot of different elements that are hopefully going to come together and gel in a way that's pretty unique. So I think we've got something cool in our hands. It's just down to the execution on our part at this point.
Okay, yeah, it definitely sounds pretty unique in the aspect of it. I haven't seen too many tower defense games in space to begin with, let alone, taking all these other elements into it as well. I can see that, especially with the physics involved, or lack thereof of physics as we know it here in space. That'd be really interesting kind of seeing how that goes with everything. So then here's the fun question that indie developers always like answering. What are you expecting for like a soft release, alpha release, early access, or anything like that? No one likes putting hard dates, but...
Right. Yeah, I mean, the plan that we've got now is summer of this year, 2014. That's sort of the date we've got on it. We've been working on it pre-production wise and planning and starting over and scrapping and then building more and scrapping that. We've been doing that since about September. So we've got a lot of the kinks worked out, and we're already putting down code and putting down art and music and so forth. So it's just putting it all together. But we're going to say summer, and we'll probably do a closed beta, and then maybe we'll see if we're going to be able to open it up to an open beta, depending on how well things go. But yeah, summer is what we're shooting for.
Okay, so then with that, are you looking at Desura as the platform, or maybe trying to go through Greenlight right away?
We're going to try Desura, probably try places like that, PC distribution. We're also going to, if everything works out, we're going to put this on iOS for iPad. So because there's a big trend that I've noticed lately is there's some really cool titles, especially space and strategy titles that have been successful on PC that have made the move to mobile. Like FTL is an example of that, XCOM, the Anno games. So there's a big move of that style of game moving from PC to mobile. So hopefully we can make those both work. But yeah, that's the plan, is to get, I don't know if we'll go green light right away, depending on some feedback and how difficult that process is, because you hear all sorts of conflicting stories. It's good, it's bad, it's difficult, it's worth it, it's not. But we'll see, and we're working on those angles right now to see where that all pans out.
Okay, yeah, we definitely look forward to that then too. So then kind of stepping back into the feature aspect of it then. So what are some of the things you can tell us that you are for sure going to have in the final product? Because, like you said, we always kind of go feature crazy in a way when we're developing games, and some of those things that we kind of realize might be a little bit far-fetched, but what are some of the like core elements of the gameplay that we can talk about?
Sure. Yeah. The core elements are basically, you're going to be playing as a planet, as an entity. You're going to have a population. Your planet is in a sector of space that is dying. There's going to be, asteroids, imploding stars, planets that are going critical, as well as, you're on the fringes of space, so you're going to have random attacks from space pirates, factions, that sort of thing. And the core gameplay is going to be a lot of management as well as planning. So you're going to have to mine resources from nearby celestial bodies like moons, asteroids, maybe some salvage that floats by, and use that all in a way to either A, create defense to keep your people alive, or you can allocate that to creating escape pods to let your people get off this planet. The goal itself will be to get everyone off, but you're constantly going to have to be finding a balance between keeping your people alive and keeping them alive long enough to get out. So that's definitely what's going to be the core part of the gameplay. But yeah, we're excited about it.
Yeah, no, that sounds really great then too. So then, kind of wrapping up a little bit here, then I always like asking any like tips or suggestions that you'd have for people that are looking into getting into indie gaming. Obviously, you already had a little bit of a background by going to school for it, and then with your sister and your programmer as well, working in that field already. But what about for someone that's kind of looking into getting into indie that doesn't have that same the same resources, I guess, that you guys had?
Yeah, I thought about this question, and I've got basically two distinct things that I would say. First off, play a lot of games and play games that you normally aren't attracted to. Jason Vandenberg from Ubisoft had a great GDC talk about it, where you would, force yourself to play games that aren't normally in your wheelhouse and try to play them from other players' perspectives. If you're normally a FPS guy, go play some strategy games. If you're normally someone who likes fantasy RPGs, go play a puzzle game, because that's going to not only allow you to appreciate those games, but you can also learn some really interesting design concepts and cross those over between genres, and just that you normally wouldn't get or see just playing the games that you like. So that can be incredibly rewarding. The second thing that I would say is, unless you're getting into making games as a hobby, remember that you're an entrepreneur. So act like it, think like it. A lot of your time is going to be spent making games, but even more is going to be spent doing interviews, trying to get press coverage, trying to get funding, trying to manage your time between, making your game and getting exposure in the rest of your life. So definitely remember that if you're trying to make this full time, that making games is part of it, but the big part of it is being an entrepreneur. So think like one and act like one is what I would say.
You know what? That's actually really great feedback. I haven't had too many developers mention that so much. That's something that I've always been more curious about. Is I personally have given up a lot of my programming abilities and things like that because I just don't have the time to really dedicate into it to promote something like I would need to. So I really agree with that too. I think it's important to do that. If you're going to do it as a hobby, like you said, or for a learning experience, it's great. But when you're ready to make that step, then you need to make that step and really commit to it. So I really appreciate that then. So do you have any final words about Gratis or about the company or anything like that before we finish?
I don't have anything other than, check out our website at lonelymonstergames.com. We've got an ongoing dev blog for the game there, as well as some promotional stuff. Boy and Pup is now free on iOS and Android, so go get it, go play it, give us some feedback, and can't wait for you guys to play Gratis.
All right, well, that sounds great then. I will have all the links down in the description. Thank you very much for your time today, Jake. Make sure you say hello to the rest of your team there for us. And
will do.
To everyone watching then, we will see you next week with another interview, and tomorrow have another video up again, indie game preview. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching the interview today, guys. Make sure you check out the indie game preview on Like a Bus, as well as my indie game preview on Pixel Noir, which is coming tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.